What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
All right, I think we are all set. What is going on, everybody? Welcome into episode number 594 of Underground Sports Philadelphia, live from Underground Studios. It's KB and Matt coming at you. We got a nice little show for you tonight, talking some Eagles, talking some Sixers, some Flyers, and whatever else may come up. We also have a fun little topic as well, as tomorrow is the anniversary of one of the biggest Philadelphia free agent signings of our lifetimes, so we'll talk about that and dive down memory lane a little bit. But before we get started, make sure you guys are following us on the socials at UndergroundPHI on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads. We've been a little bit more active on there as they have made a lot of updates to make it a lot more user-friendly. So definitely check us out on Threads at UndergroundPHI, Facebook.com/UndergroundSportsPHI. And if you want to watch the show before it goes out anywhere else on Wednesdays for Thursday's episode, it's twitch.tv/UndergroundSportsPHI. Follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Castorina. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you consume your audio podcasts from. Leave a 5-star rating and review. It goes a long way for helping the show continue to grow, helps us reach more milestones, and lets us do more dope stuff for and with you guys listening at home. And of course, subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@UndergroundSportsPhiladelphia. That's where you get full video episodes of this show twice a week, full video episodes of every podcast on our network, clips, shorts, live streams, and all original video content we're putting out is over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@UndergroundSportsPhiladelphia. We're at 668 subscribers as of this recording. Trying to get to 700 before that ball drops on New Year's Eve. So continue subscribing, smash that like button, ring the bell icon, and leave a comment down below on your thoughts on everything Matt and I discuss on tonight's episode. And, of course, this show is presented by the City of Vineland, and the City of Vineland Municipal Calendar features city-organized, city-sponsored, and city-affiliated events that are of public interest. And the calendar, which is accessible at vinelandcity.org, is a good way for residents and visitors to build awareness, remain engaged with city government, and participate in local events. You can also follow the City of Vineland on social media via their Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube pages. And through these tools, you can stay connected to the community and get important announcements about programs and services offered by the city. Vineland, New Jersey, where it's always growing season. And big thank you to Security 21 Security Systems and Paul J. Gillespie Incorporated for their continued support of this podcast. What's going on, Matt?
I'm living the dream.
We had quite a weekend ourselves as the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Pontari, Dom, got married, and to his lovely wife, Monica, finally tying the knot, and had ourselves quite the time for the second marriage of Underground Sports Philadelphia.
Yeah, it was a very fun weekend. Sunday morning was a little rough for me on a personal note, but yeah, great time, and it was a fantastic wedding.
Two people we both have endless amounts of love for, so congrats to Dom and Monica as they are enjoying their mini moon down in Cape May, and many, many happy and bountiful years to come for them. Matt, the Eagles, we're on to Seattle as the Cowboys game didn't go as planned, obviously, as the Eagles lost to Dallas on Sunday Night Football. But we're on to Seattle, and it's brought to you by our awesome merch partners at PHI Apparel Company, the best merch partners in the game. If you guys want to stay warm this hoodie season and bundled up, whether you're out on the town or at home watching the Birds, the Flyers, Sixers, the Wings, go get yourself an Underground Sports Philadelphia hoodie to do it in. We've got podcast merch for all of our franchises at Underground Sports Philadelphia at phiapparel.co, as well as T-shirts. Got some new stuff coming in the very near future, and the best Philly sports merch that is unique and designed for all so that you stand out in the crowd. Go to phiapparel.co and use code UNDERGROUND for 10% off any and all merch orders It's the most effective and direct way to support everything we're doing here at Underground Sports Philadelphia. So go get your merch, phiapparel.co, and use code Underground at checkout for 10% off your order. Game was flexed like we kind of predicted and had hypothesized about a couple weeks ago. So Eagles playing on Monday Night Football this week. They get an extra day of rest, and they flex out the Chiefs and the Patriots. But a game that could look a little different. Not sure if Geno Smith is going to be all systems go, so it could be Drew Lock in there at quarterback for the Seahawks. But a game where the Eagles desperately need to bounce back as they currently are out of first place via tiebreaker and head-to-head and all that good stuff with the Cowboys, and they are currently not the number one seed in the NFC as we speak.
Yeah, it's a tough loss for that reason. I think the 49ers Cowboys, as part of this stretch run, were kind of the two games you didn't want to lose for that reason. You now lose out on both tiebreakers to both teams. I don't know how the Cowboys one gets settled because it goes division record.
Yeah, so there's
right?
like 3 tiebreakers before, but the last one that favors the Eagles, which is what would determine it, as of right now, is conference record.
Yeah.
And because the Cowboys earlier this year lost to the Cardinals, the Eagles have a better conference record than the Cowboys. So the Eagles, if things remain tied, they would win the division.
Yeah, so that's obviously the challenging part, and it's another week too where the offense, some like herky-jerky stuff and a few like key like fumbles and bad spots too that didn't help. I think it's always going to be hard to judge that game based off that, but this is also what the Eagles and Cowboys do every year, which is split, and pretty much home team usually wins in those matchups. So not too surprising in that sense. But yeah, it's frustrating. I think the last 2 weeks have kind of really taken you back down to earth as an Eagles fan. But like you said, looking forward to Seattle. Geno Smith, it's a groin injury. That's something that can be hard to recover from, and that's also something we've seen time and time again. Guys get re-injured through the course of the game, and the Seahawks have also been struggling this year. So it's a good bounce back. And when you look at the rest of the schedule, you have the Giants twice and the Cardinals. You feel pretty good about being able to run the slate. And listen, you kind of just have to hope that you get a little bit of help. 49ers still have the big tests against the Vikings. That's not going to be easy. Cowboys this week have the Bills. That's going to be a great game. The Bills team that almost beat the Eagles too. So it's never fun losing to Dallas. But I think it didn't really come as a surprise either. It felt like going into that game that this is a real possibility. And like we said, it's kind of taking the Eagles back down to earth. I think the biggest thing to keep perspective on, though, is that this is new going into this run. There was a really hard stretch of the schedule. Like, it was just kind of an aberration. Like, you don't get these most years, like where you have like 6 straight weeks of just insane competition. It's not unreasonable to say that between the Dolphins and the Chiefs and the Cowboys and the 49ers, that
And even the Bills at that matter.
even the Bills, if the Bills make the playoffs, I would say the Bills are a Super Bowl contender. But all those teams you played are teams that if they're there in early February, you're not surprised at all. I would not be surprised if any of those teams, and a few of them, like the Cowboys and the 49ers, will absolutely be favorites to make it out of the conference. Chiefs are always going to have some level of favoritism, right? Even though they don't have the great record this year. And the Dolphins, could potentially be the 1 seed in the AFC. So it's like you played really the hardest teams. So your offense is never going to look as good, and your defense is never going to look as good in those situations. I wonder too if once we get Seattle and in both Giants games in Arizona, if people feel a little better. But you're still going to have to go through at least one of Dallas or San Francisco, and that's, I think, the scary part here is that you maybe are going to have to do it on the road now too.
And it starts on the road this week, too, where the Eagles have not beaten Seattle since 2008. That is the number one test moving forward this week, is that the last time you beat the Seahawks was November 2nd, 2008. That was also the last time you beat them in Seattle. But the Seahawks are on a rampant win streak against the Eagles that dates back to December 1st, 2011, all the way through November 30th, 2020 was the last time the Eagles and Seahawks played each other. Seahawks on a, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7-game win streak against the Eagles.
Yeah. Well, I think
Granted, most of that was with Russell Wilson at the helm as
Right.
well in his prime, and now you're going to potentially be playing against Drew Lock, but still doesn't subside from the fact that Drew Lock can heave the ball down the field, and you've got to be able to defend 2 all-world caliber wide receivers in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett.
I would also say, where Seahawks defensively are really struggling too is run defense. They traded for Leonard Williams to try and shore that up, and it hasn't really helped. It's like a team that's in the bottom third on a lot of run defense metrics. So if there's ever a week for a bounce back on that aspect of the game, and I think a lot of people have been critical of the way the Eagles have used the run game in the last few weeks. If there's a game to have DeAndre Swift and maybe even Jalen, get back into good rhythm, I think this is the game.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a game that, the Seahawks aren't just going to, fold over and give in, because they're fighting for their playoff lives as well, and you're going to have to really show that you're not, mailing it in. You're not, just taking the Seahawks for granted. And sure, the Eagles have the easiest schedule remaining of any contender left the rest of the season by virtue of just record alone. Because you look at who the 49ers have to play. They still got to play the Ravens on Christmas Day. The Cowboys have quite the stretch the rest of the regular season. So you have, the ability to control your own destiny, and you have to be able to show up on Monday Night Football prime time again against an opponent who has had your number for over a decade, and show that you can go on the road, beat a team that typically gives you trouble, and come out of this Seahawks game feeling good, knowing that, down the stretch you have Giants, Cardinals, Giants to close out the season. And I damn well know that you don't want fucking the Godfather Mafia of Tommy DeVito coming into Lincoln Financial Field on Christmas and ruining Christmas either.
Well, I got to say, the Giants have been impressive in some ways, and could be talking about them as a fringe wildcard team, if things going to shake the right way for them over the next few weeks. So it's not impossible. They play the Saints this Sunday, who have looked awful, just totally despondent. So could all of a sudden have more implications than you expect. Right now, the Giants are 5-8. I mean, it'd be a stretch, but right now 6-7 is making the playoffs in the NFC. So, and they have a tiebreaker over the Packers now. They could have a tiebreaker over the Saints after Sunday. It's don't look now.
Does any coach, obviously Frank Reich's been fired already, but does any other coach in the NFC South survive this season?
I think Arthur Smith does, kind of regardless of what happens.
Unless they totally
they would.
down.
I think they'd really have to fall apart. But I think I would be surprised to see the Saints stick with Allen, and I think it's hard to read really with the Buccaneers. It was kind of weird gap year for them. Todd Bowles is more. He's one of these I think better as a coordinator than a head coach type of guys, and so I wonder if they make that switch. But they're kind of middling. They'll probably be a playoff team, and I don't know. What do you do? They're they're at a weird stage where they're still good enough because they have older players that are just still very talented, but clearly they don't have a 3 or 4 year window after this. So yeah, it's a weird gap year for them. So it's hard to judge, but yeah, maybe they make a move
unless old Bill Belichick decides to follow in Tom Brady's footsteps. And
I would not want to hire Bill Belichick
at all
under any circumstances.
But what a report to fly out this week that with 4 games left, the Patriots are going to be moving on from Bill Belichick, allegedly.
You'll hear about him for Washington and the Chargers, I think, all off season. I think the biggest one is Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator. That's going to be the big prize this offseason for. I mean, he was already people really wanted him last year, so I think a smart team I think might want to take a look there.
I think if you're a smart team, you take a look at the Eagles coordinators.
Yeah, I think Joseph Desai is actually really good. Maybe
Brian Johnson, anybody?
Maybe. Yeah, let's do just a B Johnson switch. It's just do that. It's like Bijan and Brian Robinson, you know?
Exactly.
Like, it's like they're kind of the
What's
same
the
thing.
difference?
I mean, Brian Robinson's technically been better, actually.
Yeah.
So, if you really think about it.
And I mean, does Arthur Smith really need to coach? I mean, he's the heir to the FedEx fortune. He's just doing it for the fun.
Yeah, he's honestly just there for the love of the game. I would be surprised. But I mean, like if this division is as winnable as a division you'll get. Like, and they've really mucked it up on their own. So maybe they do, but I feel like he's got good security.
But yeah, I mean, Eagles got to go into Seattle and really show that, like, hey, past couple weeks were not our best performance, and we can prove that we can bounce back. Jordan Mailata was on the big radio station in town that just continues to churn out absolute ridiculous tweets and everything. So that's why you should subscribe to Underground Sports Philadelphia instead, so you don't have to deal with that bullshit that they're putting out there for you. But Jordan Mailata said that Brian Johnson addressed the team after the 49ers game for his, for lack of a better term, incompetence in running the ball and the offensive scheming. He said that Jordan Mailata said that the offensive game plan was a lot more fluid and smooth in the Cowboys game, but you can't have uncharacteristic fumbles and turn the ball over and expect to win. So we'll see if things, continue to improve, but it really has, the past 2 weeks especially, felt like the offense has just been so, slow and, mechanical, and the way that the Eagles are just, waiting for things to happen down the field rather than letting them just early on in, a play development happen and using the middle of the field. I feel like they need to use that more down the stretch to really, showcase that this offense is not as predictable as it's been.
Yeah, I think that's been the question all year, though, is that this offense has not looked as good. You're going to have that when you lose Shane Steichen. It's very clear that he was very helpful in the way the Eagles played last year. We even talked about, Jalen's clearly, the knee injury is clearly worse than they let on. And, you can tell because he's still wearing the brace and, just at the beginning of the year wasn't moving the way that he typically did, but he was mostly just avoiding contact. Mm-hmm. He looks maybe 80% of his normal self, which is just not. It's not quite elite anymore, and that's the. And I mean, I think too, someone brought this up. I thought it was interesting. The tush push is obviously great, having that, but is there an effect too where that's it's a really punishing play, and you just run it so often. I wonder if you're seeing some some effects of the fact that he's been put into a meat grinder, 6 or 7 times a game at minimum, it feels like. And I don't know, that was something I hadn't really thought about, but yeah, it's not an easy play. We make it, the Eagles make it look easy, and there's definitely times where he just kind of crowd surfs, but there's also been times where it's man, he's just getting ripped apart, in a giant pile. I don't know.
And it's funny you bring that up because Ian Rappaport tweeted today, NFL executive and former Philadelphia Eagle Troy Vincent says that at the league meeting, among other things, that the league will take a look at plays where the player fumbles through the end zone. Is it too punitive? Do we need to give them a chance again? It will be studied this offseason. Followed up with on the tush push, brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it. Philly does it better than anyone else, but the sample size is too small to draw a conclusion, but it doesn't seem they want to punish the Eagles for doing something well. So it seems like the tush push is sticking around for the foreseeable future.
Well, it was a thing last year. I don't remember it getting as much attention, and I'm sure the Eagles have used it maybe more, but even then I'm not totally sure. I'd love to look at the numbers. But they talked about it this offseason about changing it, and they didn't. So people are filling their diapers about this. It's the league already took a look at this. So yeah, it's fine.
The other thing too is that the most notable player of our lifetime in the NFL, Tom Brady, in his run with the Patriots, they use that play all the time.
Yeah, he was known for always he never failed a quarterback sneak.
Yeah, that was his thing. Drew Brees did it all the time and used his lower stature, because he's a shorter quarterback, to his advantage. So many quarterbacks have done it. And now all of a sudden, because Jason Kelsey and Travis Kelsey's podcast talks about the 92 percenters and talking about the play, it gets amplified, and I feel like that's the only reason people are up in arms about it, is because there's more vocality to it.
Yeah, I guess. And I think it's kind of become the identity of this team in some ways too. And I think what frustrates people is that like with a quarterback sneak and stuff like that, it's usually you might only see that once every few games. You're seeing this multiple times a game, and it just feels. And I think what's frustrating is that other teams, technically nothing is stopping anyone from trying this, but other teams, I've watched other teams do it, and they're just not as good at it.
Right.
And that's a personnel thing. It's a skill issue. But it's, I think that's part of it too, is that it is such a distinct advantage that is technically available to everyone, but this team just does well. But as we were talking about it earlier, what, you're going to put ankle weights on Tyreek Hill?
Right.
Like it's just, yeah, like players have advantages. That's just how it is. Well, you're not going to let Patrick Mahomes do his sidearm throw, like that when he scrambles and goes out of structure. Like you're not going to let Josh Allen just mow down people because he's just a massive human that can run fat. Like just what it is. Lamar Jackson, you're only allowed one fast twitch move on any of your scrambles because it's not fair that people, people have advantages. That's the whole point of sports, is finding, those little on the margin stuff to get you to win. So,
well, I mean, it looks like the on the margins thing for the Chiefs got taken away this week because Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid were not too thrilled with their best pals, the NFL referees.
That was, I think,
crazy.
The weirdest. I can't ever remember a team losing their mind so much over a call that really, in the grand scheme of things, is actually was not important and not that significant. Because you would think that this was like the AFC Championship game.
Mm-hmm.
If that happens as the AFC Championship game, I could see especially in the heat of the moment, getting upset and really like venting. It was second down.
There was still over a minute left in the game.
It's a regular season game, brother. Like you had shots still. And yeah, here's the thing about offside. It is the most black and white binary thing that exists in all of sports that has an offsides rule. You either are or you are not. There's no a little offside. It is you are or are not onside or offside. That is it. It's black and white. Is it? I think there's like two separate discussions that people are having. One is like, well, you can't call it. You can, though. That's the thing. It's the
called
rule.
11 times.
Yeah, and that's people who've been called 11 times. Yeah, that's okay. That's
There's clearly been a point of emphasis,
right? Clearly they've talked about this. They want to ensure that this isn't a rule. I think you can maybe have a discussion about ticky tacky calls and what place do they have in the game or whatever, and that's fine. And I think you could call it I've heard a lot of arguments about it this week, and about how there's a holding on every play, or you could call pass interference on so many things, whatever. True. All of it is true. There is some subjectivity to this, but I don't know. At the same time, it was clearly it was an offside. It really wasn't, anything to me that was subjective. You can debate about, again, refs blowing the whistle for that, throwing the flag for that. I don't know. Maybe that's a separate discussion about maybe not litigating the game as much, but also where's the line then? How offside can you be before it's a problem? Sure, he didn't technically gain an advantage from that play, but I would argue that you do gain an advantage from being offsides. That's why there's an offside rule, because it's so that you're not allowed. It's if a defender was that offside, it's a problem, right? It goes both ways. So I was really shocked that was Andy Reid. Andy Reid's reaction, especially, to
crazy.
Me, he's always been a pretty calm guy. I think that's one of his best known qualities. He seems just pretty easygoing. You've seen him and Mahomes and him and whoever quarterback, him and whoever he's worked with throughout his career. Usually it's someone yelling at him, and he's just sort of he's always feels like diffusing the situation. I watched the Netflix documentary, and when Mahomes last year in the playoffs messed up his ankle, he was screaming at him. He's like, "Hey man, I just want you to get an X-ray before you go back." He was calmly explaining. It's just that's kind of his character. So it was a really bizarre reaction. And listen, Mahomes bringing up that this was affecting Kelsey's Hall of Fame career or whatever. Just say that Taylor was there and it looked really fucking cool in front of Taylor Swift. You don't have to do this.
And then him in the in the post game huddle saying that was the worst call he'd ever seen to Josh Allen. When you're shaking hands,
Josh Allen's yeah, bro, I fucking I have the second best offense ever, and we're 500.
I didn't touch the ball in the AFC Championship game, you prick.
Yeah, like, shut up, dude. I'm not interested in hearing about this.
And then the funniest part is like, as somebody who played 1 year of organized football, my freshman year of high school, they teach you at even lower levels of football, when you are a wide receiver, a tight end, whatever it may be, if you are like going out to receive the ball, you check in with the referee that is on the sideline and say, hey, like, it is your job to get their attention and say, hey, I'm on or I'm off, to which then the referee will either bump you up to be more on the line of scrimmage or bump you off. I found it hilarious that Andy Reid's reaction was what it was after the game, and then the next day or the day after when he had his press availability says, yeah, Kadarius Toney never checked onto the line of scrimmage with the referee.
Well, that's the thing, too, is like, listen, Kadarius Toney has had these mistakes in his life. Like, famously in the Super Bowl last year, lined up in the completely wrong spot for his touchdown. So, yeah, I mean, that's also the reason this is not called much, because usually the wide receiver knows to do this, like to line up on side or at least check in. So, yeah, I don't know. It was a bizarre thing. It was bizarre how much. I think, and I'm not the first to think this, but I really agree with this. I think a lot of Mahomes' frustration was, I can't quite like yell about my team and about the wide receiver because like I still have to be with these guys. I think a lot of that was like frustration that he's had where he's played good this year, but he's been let down a lot by wide receiving. And I think that was just like frustration that boiled over and that was just his way now of like channeling that, I think. Because I don't think he was like about to fight someone on the sideline.
He slammed his helmet into the ground.
I've never seen that reaction. I just have to believe personally that was like, he really wanted to actually just beat the shit out of Kadarius Toney, but like he was able to channel it to like a ref. I really feel that might be the truth here.
Did you also see that Chris Jones' post-game press conference was cut short because ceiling tiles fell on a reporter in the media room? Somebody quote tweeted it and said that Kadarius Toney was trying to escape through the air vents.
I wouldn't blame him. You know what's funny about Kadarius Toney is like he like makes these mistakes and then he just sort like he never looks like he realizes that he messed up. You know, like he never and which I guess in some way is good. Like they always tell you to have like a memory of a goldfish in sports because like you're gonna make a mistake, but like you can't think about it. I'm telling you, he has never thought about it. He never looks like he is like, ah, shit. You know, like it's always like, I don't know what happened?
Me?
Oh, what?
And I know it's terrible, but did you see the whole story from Sean McDermott that leaked this past week too?
Oh, the 9/11.
The 9/11 stuff, and then all the memes that have come through are just, I don't know how people think of them.
Yeah, Muhammad Atta was let down by his coworkers too, so, you know.
I couldn't, and that story was like from like 4 years ago or something.
Which apparently, like, it had been brought up before, and he was like, he sort of like hand waved it, and it makes you think though, like, a story like that making the rounds makes me think if I'm Sean McDermott, like, they're trying to get me out of here.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that scene in Training Day, like, where he's like, someone's going to be playing basketball in Pelican Bay, and it's Sean McDermott, actually, I think is. You know, there really is only one reason that something like that gets relitigated.
Yeah, and it's a player that's been there for a while and wants some change.
Yeah.
But yeah, NFL this week should be quite the doozy. Was it weird to you too that last week was still bye weeks in the NFL?
I don't understand that at all. So
from like a fantasy football perspective, I was like, oh, this is like some people's last week to like clinch a playoff spot, and they don't have some of their best players.
Yeah, which I think it was only it was Washington and Arizona.
Yeah,
so
all those scary Terry owners.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's probably better if he's on bye week because then you're not making the mistake of putting him in your lineup. So
I can proudly say that my team showed up this week in fantasy football and beat the shit out of my opponent, and we have won our division at 7-7, a negative score differential, and claim the third seed in the fantasy football playoffs.
You just got to get in, baby. I beat in my one league, I beat Mikey Ostrowski by 0.30 points.
Hell yeah.
to lock up my division, and then in my other league, I beat our good friend Nikolai, his wife. we were duking it out for the top number 1 overall seed, and I beat her. So I have a bye week in that one, which always feels nice.
I beat Zach Carbonera last week in my league to clinch my playoff spot, and now I am playing good pal, listener of the show, Noah Papiano, this week, who I lucked out that his quarterback was Justin Herbert, who's now done for the season. Now he's got to start. Not that it's a walk in the park, but he's got Jake Browning playing for him now instead of Herbert, and then he's got a couple other guys that are injured. And like we said a couple weeks ago, sometimes you just got to go all in, and me trading for Lamar Jackson before the trade deadline was huge. Me trading for Rashad White was huge, and then Dallas Goedert's back, and I'm still torn on what wide receiver to start this week between DK Metcalf and Cortland Sutton, but I made the right decision last week because DK got tossed from that game.
Yeah, so
Fantasy's
the best, man. It's simultaneously the best and the worst.
I haven't been in the playoffs in 3 years, so it was so satisfying to see that I clinched. Also, I hope I love that this week we have not seen a single new report from Rap Sheet or Schefter about the non-players and coaches going on the field for the 49ers being suspended from their sidelines.
Yeah, that's weird.
They were fully on the field.
That was wild. DK has that in him, which I don't think he has that reputation for nationally, but he's sneaky, has done a lot of I think he has 6 or 7 personal fouls,
which I saw what started it, Fred Warner shoved him into the ground.
Yeah.
And then when the turnover happened or whatever it was in the game, DK slammed him to the ground, and apparently on Fred Warner's podcast he said that he told DK that he tackles really well, and I guess DK didn't take too kindly to that, and that's what started everything. But I haven't seen anything about 49ers personnel being suspended from the sidelines, which is why I think the Cowboys game should have a little bit of an asterisk next to it, because it's the first game that Dom DeSandro was not on the sideline for in Eagles-Cowboys.
Yeah, I think you're on the
valid.
I'm cool with that.
But the NFL and fantasy playoffs are here, and if you want to upgrade your fantasy smack talk, no better place to do it than with our pals at Trophy Smack. They've got trophies, belts, metal wall art, turnover chains, rings, the whole 9 yards to make sure that your fantasy leagues are covered. They also have last place trophies and last place punishments available. Go to trophysmack.com/underground. It's linked in the description, and upgrade your fantasy smack talk today. They were featured on Shark Tank. Mark Cuban, when he was still on Shark Tank, bought into them. So go check them out. trophysmack.com/underground and upgrade your fantasy smack talk today. I also love that I'm the 3 seed in my playoffs, because that means I draw the 2 seed if I end up winning and don't have to play Mikey in the playoffs unless it's the championship game, which is how it should be.
Well, he told us at our draft for the league that I'm in with him that we can all watch how a real man drafts. So,
yeah, his team in my league this year, he was the number 1 seed. He went 11-3. He's got Jalen Hurts, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Dalton Kincaid, Mike Evans. Along with David Njoku, Brian Robinson, Cooper Kupp, Kyler Murray, Najee Harris, Jerry Jeudy, Jake Elliott, and the Steelers defense.
Yeah. Well, good luck.
So let us know your fantasy playoff implications in the YouTube comment section. But let's shift gears, Matt. It is the eve as we record this, but by the time everyone's listening, it is the anniversary of Merry Cliffmas, when Cliff Lee decided to spurn the Yankees and sign with the Philadelphia Phillies back in 2011, which I think Cliff Lee still, to this day, top 5 free agent signing in Philly sports history, maybe?
Yeah, I think ironically 3 of the 5 that immediately come to mind are all Phillies. It's Zach Wheeler, Cliff Lee, Bryce Harper. I think have to be in the top 3.
Malcolm Jenkins,
Jenkins, and I guess you would kind of have to say Foles because of what he did, but
yeah,
it's really only it's only winning a Super Bowl, but it's Foles was never like a dominant player. Like he
Right.
just happened to step up at a critical time. It's
Moses
not like
Malone.
it's not like Foles. Yeah, Moses Malone I think has to be definitely up there because he was not just a great player but also won a championship. Yeah, Moses Malone I think would have to be in the top 5 as well.
Some other big notable ones that I think are making the rounds and like by the end of their contracts could like Hassan Reddick could end up being one.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if the Eagles are able to win a championship, like definitely would be up there.
Oddly enough, David Akers was a free agent signing.
I did not know he was a free agent. I'd
Um,
always assumed he'd just been. How kickers? How often is it that like a kicker kind of becomes like a big signing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and the Eagles have oddly had 2 of them.
yeah,
David Akers and signing Jake Elliott off the Bengals practice squad
yeah.
was all time. I mean, looking back through some of the Sixers free agent signings, I mean, at the time, it's not like an all-time one, but at the time, signing Robert Covington for that time period in 2014, like that was like the first process Sixer that could shoot a basketball.
Yeah, he became like an impactful guy, but never really. He would be off my list. Good guy, good player. But
Trying to think. I mean, have there? I'm trying to think of notable like Flyers too, because I feel like there's got to be.
a lot of the Flyers in my lifetime have been post prime
Or traded for.
Yeah, or traded for. I mean, it's just in general not easy to get free agents. Like,
Danny Briere.
Danny Briere, yeah.
That's probably the one of our lifetime.
Like LeCavalier felt like a big deal,
Right.
but
That was very almost Namdi Asamoah type territory.
Right. It's just in general, unless you're like New York, LA, you're not getting big free agents. Speaking of Ohtani to the Dodgers, and apparently they're on that.
That's a money laundering scheme.
Well, I saw a really funny clip where this is the only good use of AI that I've ever seen, and someone used like an AI tool to use to recreate Leonardo DiCaprio's voice as Jordan Belfort with the scene with like when they're talking about was all this legal? Absolutely fucking not. And it was like talking about like how they gave Ohtani a $700 million deal, but we're actually only paying him $2 million. Like it was really funny. That's insane. That can't be. I don't know.
The fact that Ohtani allegedly agreed to this type of agreement because his off-field endorsements cover what
which apparently he makes like $50 million a year in off-field.
which I mean he's
so.
like the face of New Balance now.
Well, I always the commercial's always on, and I'm always like, he could have been fucking my guy. I got New Balances on right now, brother. I would have.
I mean, he's also the Dodgers have one of those money laundering Atlanta Braves Foundation schemes too, because apparently he's giving 1% of his contract to the Dodgers Foundation organization or whatever it is. They're also meeting with Yamamoto, which also feels illegal.
I heard about this thing. I didn't look into it, but apparently, they want to build essentially like a ski lift gondola type thing to the Dodgers Stadium, and it's costing like $500 million.
No wonder they're deferring all of this.
Yeah. Okay, so this is an old article. A gondola from Union Station to Dodger Stadium. It could happen by 2022. Mayor says. So, like I imagine with it's the same as most cities where it's like it's always
pipe dream.
Yeah, well, it's always hard to. Anytime you want to do anything, there's a ton of. A $300 million minimum gondola to Dodger Stadium. Why is Frank McCourt really pushing it? So yeah, that's just so you can see it. It literally looks like those ones you go up like a mountain. I can't imagine.
Could you imagine if that broke down?
I can imagine. Yeah, or are these things air conditioned? Because it's
Right.
LA in the summer. It's gonna be hot.
Right.
How are we? How is this working? And why? How is this any better than just like a train? Like, I don't
That's
understand.
Crazy. I also love that.
It could aim to ferry up to 5,000 passengers an hour. 5,000 passengers an hour? That does not seem like that many. I don't know if I'm being stupid,
No.
but that does not seem like that many. Think, how many people would you say are on a typical, like, Broad Street line? Like, on just one subway car pulling in. Like, how many... I don't know how many people cram in this. It's a few hundred for sure, right?
Yeah,
like,
on a busy day, easily.
Like, if
During
it...
work day or...
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, how many, like, you're going strictly to the game. Like, it's going all the way to Energy Station,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
it's, like, everyone's pouring out for the game. You're probably, what, I don't know, like 300-400 people?
Easy.
And then there's how many of those trains? Those trains come every 7-8 minutes?
Yeah,
Like, for, like, the...
7 to 10 minutes, probably.
Especially, so, like, 5,000 an hour? Brother, just do a train. I don't...
And
It's a
Dodger
good
Stadium-
idea. There's a good idea to, like, have a new way of getting people around.
And Dodger Stadium has a 56,000 person capacity.
So you're getting, like, not that many people. You're getting roughly 1/11 of the people an hour. That just does not seem like it's worth it.
I also love that the year that Ohtani's contract deferrals kick in, which is 2034. He's getting paid $68 million a year from 2034 to 2043. Is right when Bobby Bonilla Day ends. So we go from Bonilla Day to Ohtani Day, and it's just a passing of the torch of contract deferrals. And and apparently the Dodgers too. I don't know if you saw this. They are allegedly trying to swing a trade for Tyler Glasnow and Manuel Margot from the Rays. The Dodgers are single-handedly going
in the first round. It's gonna be so funny when they lose.
I can't wait. The Dodgers are single-handedly going to force a salary cap in baseball.
I don't think it'll ever happen.
I don't think the owners would ever agree to it, but like it's gonna get talked about.
I mean, there's the luxury tax. I actually think that's. I'm okay with that. I'm actually okay. Like salary cap's fine. Like I wouldn't sports that have it already, but I think a luxury tax is fine for a sport like this, where it's like, yeah, if you really want to go all in, go for it, because it doesn't guarantee you anything. Like now having a salary cap in the NBA, I think is more important because the players are so much more impactful. That if you're the Lakers and you could just sign LeBron, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, like that's not fair. Like you are really hindering the sport, I think. So I'm okay with it. I would hope that it doesn't go away. I think it's if teams want to spend, cool. But there's teams that have won not spending. For every team that has spent, like the Rangers, you get $500 million. There's teams that have done it on peanuts. So.
Also, congratulations to the Kansas City Royals for winning the 2024 World Series as they signed Will Smith in free agency. He's won the last 3 World Series championships. We got to wait for the trade deadline because he could get traded, and whatever team trades for him is more than likely going to win the World Series. But now that the Ohtani domino has been tipped over, I feel like free agency will pick up a little bit once like the holidays are over. We might get 1 or 2 more like decent sized signings, I think, before Christmas and everything. But now that that's done and over with, I think now free agency is going to kind of snowball, if you will, into these other signings that could come across the board. And I've seen a lot of people, Matt, linking Josh Hader to the Phillies.
I'd be okay with Josh Hader. I think he's a little past it, but still a good reliever. Wouldn't love him as like our shiny closer toy, right. He's not quite that guy anymore. Like 2.5 years ago, I'm over the moon, but he's just not.
He's still only 29 years old, which he feels a lot older than that.
But he could also, he could be someone that refines a little bit for him. He's never going to get back to what he was on the Brewers when he was just. Well, he went like 2 years without.
Yeah, and then like Matt Vierling broke him as soon as he went to the Padres.
Hilarious, but maybe coming here will kind of reset the balance. I don't know.
We obviously talked about this a little bit too. We're still very much on board with signing Hector Neris and bringing him back.
I would definitely bring Neris back.
Also feels like the Phillies just need to find a left fielder too across the board, whether it's free agency or trade. I don't know where it will come, but I feel like that's the last like hole they need to fill that seems kind of glaring, so that Kyle Schwarber can kind of stay as your DH. Go and find a left fielder wherever it may be. I know a certain former Chicago Cub that's out there that could probably fit that role. His name is Cody Bellinger.
Yeah.
He's such a Colorado Rocky. It's not even funny.
Absolutely. He'll sound like he'll be there for like 2 years, and then because he already kind of had like a better season last year, and then he goes 2 years out there, and then someone's gonna fall for that trap. I think. That's a Mets. That's a Mets bomb right there.
I also saw a very funny tweet that was like Ohtani's going to play like 8 years of that Dodgers contract, and then the Mets are going to trade for him when he's at the tail end of his career, and then they're going to be stuck paying the $68 million a year on the deferrals.
That'd be really funny. I just can't believe that.
He's making $2 million a year.
Unbelievable. LA's an expensive city, baby. I mean, $2 million. I'm not going to eat.
The Sixers are back at a big win against the Wizards, a team that they should be beating and beating down on. Nice win there on Monday, 146-101. It's brought to you by our pals over at Kenwood Beer, the official beer partner of Underground Sports Philadelphia. It's 4.1% ABV, just 120 calories, only 8 grams of carbs. You can go to kenwoodbeer.com and use the Kenny Finder to see who has it on tap in the Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania areas, in New Jersey, and in Maryland as well. You can also get it at your local liquor stores and at the Wells Fargo Center. That's kenwoodbeer.com. Got to be 21 or older to do so. And, of course, please drink responsibly. Sixers currently beating the Detroit Pistons 46-31. I also don't know if you've seen this, Matt, with the Pistons. Wingstop is giving away 5 free wings for every Pistons win, and they are currently on a 19-game losing streak.
Pistons have been bad. The Cade Cunningham experiment has been sad to watch. So I would take him. I'd give him Jaden Ivey. I'd talk to you. I would talk to you. I absolutely would. Yeah, it's funny. Embiid's playing better than last year, and he's going to not have any shot at the MVP, and no one's talked about it.
Yep.
Almost better that way, I think. Yeah, when everyone's been healthy and playing, this team is very good. And Kelly Oubre's been back and looking healthy and recovered from whatever happened to him. Still, the mystery still remains, but yeah. It's I'm not getting pulled in, but they've been a very good team so far this year.
This was a wild stat that Basketball Reference put out after the win against Washington for the Sixers. All 15 players on the Sixers recorded a point in Monday's win over Washington. It's the 4th time that 15 players have scored for the same team in an NBA game. And, Matt, all 4 games have included the Philadelphia 76ers.
Wow.
It first happened April 24th, 2021, Sixers in Milwaukee. Then on 2 days later, April 26th, 2021, Oklahoma City and the Sixers. And then on April 28th, the Atlanta Hawks and the Philadelphia 76ers. And then this past Monday, it also happened with the Sixers and Washington.
Well, I hope that this goes better than the 2021
You're telling me.
Because that was truly one of the worst times of my life. I've not been the same since.
Sixers winning 48-33 right now, about a quarter of the way through the second quarter against the Pistons in Detroit. I saw a tweet today, too, from the Barstool Philly account. They said, who's a Philly sports athlete that should have played their entire career in Philadelphia but didn't? And then the one and only Patrick Beverly quote tweeted and said, aye, Captain.
Yeah, probably.
He feels like a guy that should have been here many, many years ago and been here most of, if not all of his career.
Definitely fits the kind of energy where it's like a lot of shit talking and then it's never really done it in big moments.
He also just feels like we've obviously seen him play from afar for a number of teams now, but him being here and obviously if you listen to his podcast with Roan, Roan being a Philly guy too, I think also helps it. Pat Bev just feels like the ultimate teammate too, and I think that's helped this team in a lot of ways this year from just a leadership perspective. And sure, have Pat Bev's teams fallen short in the playoffs and in regular seasons in years past? Absolutely. But he's also not the star on those teams. And I think to have a teammate that is pushing guys like Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey to be the absolute best that they can on any given night. I think that's been a huge boost from like a veteran leadership type of perspective in a year where you have a brand new head coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, Sixers still hovering around that top 4 spot. They're 15-7, could be 16-7 by the end of the night, which same record as the Bucks and the Orlando Magic. Celtics are 17-5.
Yeah. I think the Sixers have the best net rating in the NBA. I think it's from Clean the Glass, which like cuts out some of the like garbage time stuff. And I've just looked really good. I think they've only lost one game with Kelly Oubre as part of the lineup too. And that was the opening night. So,
which they should have won.
Should have won. So this is a good team.
Oddly enough.
You can choose to watch them and support them and invest emotionally into them. You can do that. You are allowed to do that. I will watch them, but I'm not investing emotions in this team just yet.
3 difficult games down the stretch of the rest of 2023, being the Heat on Christmas Day in Miami.
I fucking hate the Heat. No Bam Adebayo. He's out for like a month. Heat are in trouble, man. No Bam for an undetermined amount of time. And they're already kind of on the fringes of playoffs. Of course, they're going to win on Christmas now that I said that. But, yeah.
And then you have at Orlando 2 days later. And then
I mean, you even have the Wolves.
the Timberwolves is the other game that, shockingly enough, they are best team in the Western Conference.
I mean, that's what happened. We didn't have Anthony Edwards, a guy that just felt like he was primed to explode and has had a pretty big leap this year. Shockingly, Rudy Gobert is like playing like a defensive player of the year. It's kind of unbelievable. And in 2 days is when guys who were signed this summer can be traded. So we're gonna expect to hear a little bit more about trades and roster moves. You've heard a lot of bubbling about the Bulls and things like that, but you know, once that deadline hits December 15th, you're probably gonna hear a lot more concrete stuff and like hear some different names.
We don't talk about it enough too. Getting off that PJ Tucker contract was such a blessing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of crazy that trade has worked out as well as it has for the Sixers. You know, like it's crazy in the beginning part when we traded Ben that we ended up getting Harden, and that was honestly a win.
Mm-hmm.
And we've somehow compounded that into another win. I don't really understand.
It's crazy what having like non-superstar depth does for your roster.
Yeah,
you know, to have guys that can just play and score. That aren't necessarily like me guys, but they are guys who can come off the bench and provide valuable minutes for you. Kind of keeps you in the top 4 of your respective conference, and you know, right around the 1 seed, if you will. I'm just terrified with the Wolves being as good as they are. What that Timberwolves Brazil account is going to unleash upon us. 1, when they clinch the playoffs, and 2, what diabolical AI-generated Timberwolf videos are going to come from any playoff victory.
Yeah, a lot of those things are like fetish stuff. So
yeah,
that's good or bad. I don't know.
Indifferent.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm indifferent. I don't like it. It bothers me in a way that I can't quite describe.
I did see the official Timberwolves account reached out to them and sent them like a whole bunch of shit too, which is just very funny playing into that bit. Speaking of team that Matt's not emotionally invested in, but I'm kind of getting there, Matt. Flyers are good.
Sure. Sure. Okay, sure.
I'm not saying I'm in, but they are making quite an interesting case to be good vibes, which if you put that on our bingo card at the beginning of 2023, we would have called you crazy. But I mean, they're going to overtime with teams that are playoff teams. They're winning games against teams like the Avalanche by multiple goals. I don't know what it is. I don't know what John Tortorella has in this team having balls, as he says. But I mean, it feels like the Flyers are at the trade deadline could be in the mix to be buyers rather than sellers, which, again, you tell us that at the beginning of this season, we would have called you crazy.
Sure. I'm not doing this. I'm just not doing this with the Flyers. I'm not doing it. I'm out. They are never getting me back. The Sixers are like, we're on really, really rough terms. The Flyers have we're divorced and I changed my name and moved 17 states away. I have no clue who that is. I don't want to know who that is.
What would it take? Is there anything?
I'm being genuine. If the Flyers were won the Stanley Cup, I don't even know how. I would feel happy, obviously, and I would watch the playoffs. But I would not feel any kind of real emotion. Honestly, if I'm thinking about it, I wouldn't be celebrating. I don't even if they're in the Stanley Cup, I'm not staying up for the full game. I'm staying up until it's my bedtime. Well, I'll see what the score is when I wake up. Honestly, that is the level that they would be on for me. I can't do it. Can't do it.
They lost to Nashville on Tuesday, 3-2. But Nashville again is Stanley Cup-esque team this year. They host the Capitals on Thursday, host the Red Wings on Saturday, and then they are back at it on the road. Weird scheduling there, where they go home, and then up to New Jersey to then come back home on Thursday against Nashville again, so you get another shot at them. But they're playing good hockey. They are 15-10-3, and they are one of four teams in the Metropolitan Division with a positive goal differential and the second best in the division, only behind the behind the Rangers. Islanders jumped them in the standings a little bit this past week, but they're tied points-wise with 33, so we'll see if it keeps chugging along. But, for them to be playing at a winning level at this point in the season, the past 5-6 years has been unprecedented, so good on them to keep it chugging along, and we'll see what happens with the Flyers the rest of 2023 and into 2024. But that's all we got for you guys. Make sure you're following us at Underground PHI on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Facebook.com/UndergroundSportsPHI, Twitch.tv/UndergroundSportsPHI. You can follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Castorina. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts in audio form. Leave a 5-star review. It goes a long way for helping us reach more milestones on the audio platforms. And, of course, subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@UndergroundSportsPhiladelphia. We're at 668 subscribers, looking to get to 700 or more by the time the ball drops on New Year's Eve. So keep subscribing, be a friend, tell a friend, smash that like button, ring the bell icon, and comment down below your thoughts on everything Matt and I discussed on the episode tonight. Be sure to get your merch at phiapparel.co, code underground for 10% off your order. And, of course, this podcast is presented by the City of Vineland. And whether you're a company looking to expand, relocate, or you're a new business startup, selecting the right location is critical to your success. Vineland, New Jersey offers both an affordable business location and an excellent quality of life. The city's economic development department is a one-stop source for moving your project through the development and approval process, and their goal is to make this process as smooth as possible and to provide the fastest turnaround times in the region. If you're considering potential locations for your operation, contact the Vineland Economic Development Team at 856-794-4100. That's 856-794-4100. Vineland, New Jersey, where it's always growing season. A big thank you to Security 21 Security Systems and Paul J. Gillespie Incorporated for their continued support of this podcast. It's been episode number 594 of Underground Sports Philadelphia. From Matt and KB. Till next time, let's go Birds. Hopefully a big-time Monday Night Football win. We'll talk about that game next week. But until then, we are signing off. Peace.